Okay, meantime, we're going to talk about the coronavirus and what it is doing to business right now. British Airways stopping all direct flights to and from mainland China because of that coronavirus outbreak. And joining us now on what it means for the other airlines out there is Seth Kaplan. He's the principal at Kaplan Research. Good morning to you, Seth. We also just heard about a flight, by the way, coming in the United States, stopping in Alaska. Becky was saying it's on its way to LA.
It's already on its way to California.
Already on its way to California. How do you handicap this situation, and which airlines do you think are most at risk?
Well, it's the global airlines, obviously, American, United, and Delta among the U.S. airlines. So far, you know, and looking here at the possibility that the White House could order a suspension of flights to China, look, there is more priced into the stock movements, and they're off or lows, obviously, but than you would necessarily expect in terms of the impact on the business. We talked just about the impact of even a possible suspension of flights to China, which, you know, the impact of that by the White House is less each day because airlines are kind of doing it on their own because of weaker demand. Look, China has been a tough market here for several quarters for these airlines anyway. American Airlines last year ended flights between Chicago and China and said later, look, that was accretive to profits. So you're basically telling airlines to stop flying to a place where they're not doing all that well anyway. It's a small percentage of their total capacity, even an airline like United, which has the most impact. If anything, I worry more about flights between the U.S. and Seoul, an airline like Delta, which has a joint venture with Korean Air. I worry more about the, you know, 30-something flights total in both directions by Korean Air between the U.S. and Seoul, which are filled usually with people connecting to and from China, and with Delta's 8 or so flights, than I do about Delta's dozen flights to China, because what do you do about those, right? You know, getting rid of flights that are tough anyway to China is not the biggest issue.
Just so investors who are looking at these stocks today understand, what is baked into the cake? Meaning, what do investors, what do you think the stock market's already reflecting the view that what is going to happen in terms of how long this lasts, how it impacts those airlines, just so we understand sort of what baseline means?
Probably more baked in than, let's say, what happened with SARS, where you had a few months of really weak demand back in 2003. Granted, airlines were much weaker back then, right? These were companies that were much less positioned to withstand any kind of shock than these airlines are today. But back then, you had $1 billion in total revenue impact to North American airlines, skewed more actually to Canada, because that's where more of the cases were. So, you know, if you talk about $1 billion for an industry that does, you know, a few $100 billion a year in this country, these companies are, you know, United Airlines by itself has lost $2 billion in market cap over the past week. So it's pricing in something more than what we're seeing right now. And hey, that's the point, right? The unknown here. United Technologies, the parent of the engine maker Pratt & Whitney, made the point yesterday that, you know, the regular flu killed 80,000 Americans last year, right? But there you've got this range of expectations here. We don't know where the bottom is. But if you like these companies a week and a half ago, and if you believe that this thing is going to be contained here at some point, and again, taking into account that this is, fortunately, from a financial perspective, a market that has been difficult for these airlines. You know, this has not been a tailwind. This is not, they're not ending flights to a place that has been driving their profits. It would have to get somewhat worse for them. I worry more about second-order impacts on the economy.
Thank you, Seth.
And the global economy. You got it.
I like the way you worked in tailwind.
Yep.
Airline analyst. Anyway, thank you. It's nice to see you.
Second nature. Coming up.